everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone. Today with my friend Neil Gaur. Hi, Neil. How you doing?
Hey, Kathy. I'm doing great. Really great to be here with you.
You are like a Superman. I don't know how you can do everything you do, but I want to know how. I want your superpowers when I grow up. Well, anyway, I do. Anyway, it's the truth. I would love everyone to know Neil because I got to meet him. Well, I'd been following him before, but last year, IANS, which is the International Association for Near-Death Studies, where I am a big fan and a volunteer, hired Neil to run their online conference, and it was a huge success. And he and his team, in total, we had 4 Zoom rooms running with, I don't know if it was 100 presenters, and everything went smooth as silk. I mean, better than I've ever seen anything. And I've done conferences since then and haven't seen anybody work it as elegantly and smoothly as Neil did. And I don't know how you can do it all, but Neil also, he branded that for Ion, so you wouldn't know it was Portal to Ascension, which was really, really amazing. So Neil, what we want to talk about, I just wanted people to know that's how I met you, although I don't know how many of those kind of events you want to do, because you're doing like 100 of your own. So, okay, so Neil, you came, I'm just going to give the audience a little bit. You came here from the UK at 12.
Yes.
You landed in California. Your family and everything tries to keep the culture in California, but you're in high school and college. So how did you go from just a regular guy studying philosophy, you do poetry, to where you are now? How did that opening happen?
Right. So I was born in England. I moved here when I was 12, and I was immersed in Indian culture in England, right? I had all this family there. We had my dad had I think he has 4 brothers and sisters, right? So there would be a lot going on, and my granddad would also throw like different Indian festivals at the house all the time. So I was there, a part of it, and even singing, doing bhajans, like actually religious hymns and all that. So when I moved to India, I still had the same cultural surroundings, and my mom was going to the temple, and even though I didn't have that connection, I wasn't immersed in it, they still attempted to keep me within the Hindu culture. I even started going to like Sunday schools, which is called Balvihar, where it's like for everybody from like 11 to like 16 are in there, and they're just teaching you like all the Indian ways, cultures, the Bhagavad Gita, things like that, right? So it was a part of my upbringing all the way up until even college, right? And beyond that. But there was also this like loneliness and this disconnection that I kind of always felt was an underlying feeling. And from my understanding now, like a lot of my traumas from early childhood and even maybe experiences I had in my past lives brought me to that point where I just felt like disconnected and there was something missing. Like that's the only way I can really explain it, is that something was off in the world. And even though my belief systems changed a bit now to understand that everything is happening the way it's supposed to be, as a kid, I didn't have those tools, right? So I was just like, something is where something is off. Things aren't the way they can be. When I went into college, I began, the people from all over the world there, right? And even though I hung out with a diverse community in high school, I was now introduced to all types of music. And music is really where I started hearing a little, all these other thoughts that I had, not heard of before, even though I was into a lot of different types of music. But at that point, I started getting into more psychedelic rock and things that were talking about consciousness. And I didn't even have the words and the lingo to really explain what I was listening to at that point. And I started writing poetry, my own poetry at that moment. I had wrote my first poem when I was 16 years old in high school for my English class. And it was actually, we had to pick like 7 different World War II poets, and we had to extract lines from their poetry and make our own poem out of it. And it
Wow.
was, well, I did one and I called it The Dead and the Dying, right? And it was about like war and all that stuff. So the first couple years, they were just like, even if I look back at my poetry back at 17, 18, when I didn't know any of like ET's conscious, all that stuff, I could see like there's a word here, universe. There's like wormhole, like there's all these little things there. And then I started like just going deeper and deeper into it. And as I did that, I started researching some of the stuff that I was actually writing down. And I began finding videos of all these people speaking about the topics that I was talking about, especially when it came to ancient history and the whole thing of like wormholes and ancient civilizations. If they knew anything about quantum physics, that was something at age 18, 19, 20. I was writing a lot of things like that in my poetry. So that led me to finding quantum physics and learning about the subatomic world, which immediately took me to Nassim Haramein and other people, where I started realizing that the ancient civilizations actually had metaphorical, like, if you will, text speaking about the same things, but in terms of like metaphors. But obviously they knew something really advanced that we're only now rediscovering. So that was kind of right there. It was the milestone in my life, and that awareness around 2001, 2003 that shifted me and put me on this path that I'm on now.
Wow. So you have the gift of having been trained in a culture that really has a lot of the ancient information in it, whereas a lot of the Western civilization is based on Judaism and Christianity, which
Mhm.
is really overwritten, and you have to go through an intermediary to go and have a mystical experience. And I think that's why I was so interested, and still am so interested, in the ions group, is that those people have had near-death experiences, and so nothing needs, at that point you don't need an intermediary. You can connect to that mystical part of you, or part of the divine, right away. So
Yes.
what when you, I'm like you, I like go crazy and watch all these shows, or I'll find somebody, and I'm feel directed that way, where I find somebody and then I go deep into it, and it's like candy. It's like, I know there's truth here, and it may not all resonate, but parts of it resonates. So like, did you find the Sumerian texts, or did you find more that it was part of the Vedas, or what was it that really clicked as the
Yes.
truth?
Right. When I was looking into this information, one of the first things that came to my head of what I wanted to understand was the root of all religion, right? And because I did find the Sumerian text, that's what I stumbled on first, right? And I read some of the Sumerian tablets of creation, and then I watched all these interpretations, right? And within those texts, there were like hieroglyphs and images on stone tablets of giants with snakes coming out of their mouth and a humanoid coming on the other side. And the translations of this was that it's actually talking about genetic manipulation of humans, and that whenever we see a serpent in ancient text, we immediately we're actually talking about advanced ancient sciences, normally quantum physics,
Right.
and also, so that sparked in my head, wait a second, serpent, Hinduism has serpents all over the place. The Eastern world has dragons. Oh, wait, there's this divide. The Eastern world has all this serpent symbology that is a positive. Now we have the Western world that has all this serpent symbology that is negative. So I went even deeper into that and realized that either, it could be a demonization of the serpent because to move away from this awareness, or the serpent energy represents the Kundalini, which is the awakening energy, the enlightenment energy. And in the West, if it stemmed from having to control the Kundalini, because it could be a very abrupt experience if it occurred, so that they were suppressing it, so there was dragon slayers and all that. So I was learning all this information, and I would say the serpent wisdom really did actually make me start connecting the dots, and that is what made me realize that the ancient civilizations knew about advanced vibratory world, subatomic world. Buddha, for example, Siddhartha had something what he called kalapas, right? Kalapas are basically, he would say, you would do vipassana meditation, you get to this point where you would have feel the subtle energies. After you transcend all the gross sensations of your body and you start feeling the subtle energies, you'll start feeling kalapas. What does kalapas translate to? Subatomic particles, right? So, and then Hinduism, now to answer your question here, how I started seeing the connections within it all was when I started realizing everything's vibration and frequency. And then I looked at the Hindu texts and meditation, yoga, especially various forms of meditation and breath work. All were vibratory sciences. Even the Ayurveda, which is how to eat a balanced and healthy life, and all the natural medication you could use was all a vibratory science. And this vibration was, again, an advanced understanding of ancient quantum physics. As that came about for me, I started going into more and more ancient civilizations and trying to figure out what the root of it all was. Where did it all stem from in the first place? Because I was reading these texts and I realized that there were way more similarities in these texts with each other than there were differences. And if you spend a little bit of time researching, you can kind of track things back. But why are we so arrogant, if you will, to have the truth hidden in plain sight and have the facts in front of us, but still consciously and willingly ignore it and just say our way is the only way to God, right? When it comes to many different religions in the world. So that's kind of like, how it all began right there.
That's kind of programming. I mean, when you think about it, honestly, we all are hybrids. We all came from a different, and you can almost, if you're sensitive like I am, when you meet people, you can almost say, "Oh, that one's that." I may not know where they're from, but I can tell. Yeah, you can tell. But what I wondered is this concept of knowing that the information is there. How do you feel about it not being disclosed? Like, we were supposed to just have a big UFO disclosure at the end of last month, and it was like nothing. And but then Alan Steinfeld and other people have done this. Actually, who was it? It was Grant Cameron did it on your show. He had a group of all these people that had experiences, and they were speaking up. So I think that truth is now out there as far as that we're connected with unseen and seen beings. But do you feel the conspiracy stuff at all, or how do you feel about all this?
Yeah, I do think, that we were lied to for quite some time in regards to the truth of the existence of UFOs and even maybe the existence of ET life, interdimensional life that governments around the world or even beyond governments actually have awareness of, right? And there's so much evidence out there besides the report that just came out. So the report, I think, was 8 pages, which includes a cover page and like a closing page, right? But then there was another report given to Congress that was a classified report of even in more detail, right? So, but the report did enough for the people that aren't in the know, right? It did a good amount for them. It's moving people forward. They looks like they could be. There is a definite drip disclosure agenda, because it seems that this is so calculated the way they're doing it and how they're releasing it, because a lot of people, a lot of organizations and institutions are going to be confronted with some cold dark truths. For them, it's not truly a cold dark truth, but for them it will be, because it can rock your belief systems when we realize the gravity of how deep the rabbit hole is, right? Because it goes so incredible. Like, this world, we've indoctrinated ourselves and have gone for thousands of years manifesting and believing in this physical reality so much that when we realize that there seems to be some sort of like advanced organic conscious coding underlying it all, projecting this all into existence, and within that there's all this life form everywhere, and since we can only see a limited frequency range, we are actually extremely limited, but we have the belief that we like everything that we see is what is really real. But there's all this experience happening outside of that. We've now proven we've quantified that the frequency range of our sight, our hearing, and all of our senses is very small fraction compared to what we know now is possible.
Right.
So, and because of that, and because of this technology coming out and these craft that they're seeing doing things that they didn't think was possible, we know that there's something out there that is at least that is interacting with our planet, at least, that has this awareness of science that will completely transcend how we believe we exist on this planet, right?
Exactly. Well, there's people like me that are like the canary in the coal mine. That since 8, I've been working with Arcturians, and I didn't know that they were Arcturians. I didn't find out they were Arcturians till later, and then even finding that out sort of felt like, so what? I mean, at first it was, oh, good, I have a name. And then after that, it's just a label, because everyone that's writing all the information is distorting the information through their capacity to know and how high a vibration they have access, the information that they have access to. So how do you feel about that? I mean, there's a bunch of us. I mean, I could be your mother almost. There's a bunch of us that had to keep quiet, because we would have been taken somewhere. So I do think that there's a whole bunch of beings here right now that are part of this upliftment, part of the Renaissance, because we're going through this period of going from this dark ages. That's what I'm calling what we have right now. But I'm excited about the UFO and the hybrid conversation, all of this, because I really think it creates this possibilities of co-creating with the universe at such a high level. What do you think about it? Why do you think it's happening right now?
Yeah, there's so many. Okay, let me try to break down everything you said, because I want to talk about all of it. Okay. So the Arcturian thing, right? Firstly, let me write these down, actually, because I want to be on point with Arcturian. All right, let's talk about the Arcturian thing first.
Okay.
So you said that you've had this connection with the Arcturian since 8, right? And then you also said that it's kind of a limiting term. Okay, that is correct, because when we look at the realm of Arcturus, right, within Arcturus in the 3rd dimension, there is no habitable life. We can't see it. It's just the way the sun is, the way the whole system is. It doesn't seem that Earth, 3rd dimensional Earth, can live in there. So, which is why there are higher dimensional, higher is still a construct of humans, but let's say another octave of existence there where beings exist. But then there's also multiple races. There's not just one race. Arcturus could be, they could be races in there that maybe aren't really directly interacting with us. So when we're saying that, we're giving that label to that location that could include multiple races. And it's also a term that we're giving it. We don't really know if what they call themselves, unless some of us do. Some of us probably say the Arcturian beings from this. I'm sure there are channelers that do that. But what they call themselves, because Arcturus is a name that came from, language on Earth that evolved, and then we eventually called it Arcturus, So all that is valid, because it's all about whatever our individual connection is, and we give things our own labels, because that's the way we communicate. These beings could be telepathic, for example, and it could be an energetic signature rather than an actual literal word or name, right?
Right, exactly. It is an energetic signature.
And a lot of people, the reason, like, I feel that most people on the planet, if not everyone, I can't say everyone because I don't know exactly, have had connections and existences in many different incarnations, lives, extraterrestrial lives, planets, dimensions. But there are specific themes that we get imprinted when we come into this world. And partly that's why people claim different areas in the universe. Like if somebody says they're Pleiadian, maybe that person lived multiple lifetimes on an Arcturian planet, right? But the reason why they have this connection to the Pleiades is because that theme of whatever they learned in that area is kind of the energy that they're bringing down to this planet right now for the upliftment.
Right. Well, the people that are sensitive may be able to see and feel and hear other dimensions, and that's why they kept their mouth shut. So the Dolores Cannon would call it the first.
That's what I was going to go into next. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and when I really got clear, I was curious about the Arcturians, and I read all these books, and Tom Kenyon has a great book on them, but what really got me was there was an American Indian named Natasha, which she goes by.
I worked with her in 2012. She was at our conference.
I want to reconnect with her. If you still have a way for me to connect with her, I met her. Oh gosh. Well, she didn't want to come out. She didn't want. Did you ever see her slide presentation with the?
Yeah. It's on our website. Also on PortalToAscension YouTube. I think maybe one of the first videos. Because,
go watch it.
Yeah, okay, either there or on our website. I have it somewhere.
Okay. Well, I met with her, and she looked through me. And she goes, "You're one of us. How are you doing this here?" And all I could do was burst out crying because it was this piercing, and everything she said. I know that. And what will happen is I'll watch a sci-fi show or read a sci-fi book, and I can tell what's real, what's code for putting it in the human consciousness now. So anyway, so I didn't know you knew her. She's so cool. And she said one of the beautiful things she did in her presentation is she talked about how when the aliens come to talk to us here, they'll be singing. Did you ever hear her music that she had? It was they're not going to talk to you. Although the way I get stuff is I get the information, but or I get a lot of visual too. But she had a clip that she had of Palladians, Arcturians, and some other beings singing together, and it sounded like the fifth dimension kind of beautiful harmony. But she said that's how we speak to each other. It's like, whoa. That I don't think I'll ever that I probably heard that way before 2012. And I have never forgotten it.
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Bashar. When Daryl Anka was channeling Bashar, he was saying that in the fifth dimension world that he exists in, that music is spontaneous, that you kind of like just moving around to having your day, and then people just break out into jam sessions. That kind of makes sense in a world where time isn't, we don't feel time the same way we do now, and we don't have these expectations of ourselves, and we have a moment to be more free and more spontaneous as well.
Well, it's all frequency. The other thing that I just thought that the information, a lot of the people like Tom Kenyon, a lot of his stuff comes through as sound as well.
Oh yeah, I love him.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So what next? Did you want to comment? Thank you for that for the Arcturians, because I agree totally. They're in that gamma range. They're not in 3D. But you can go up every night. You can ask to go up, and since the ones I work with hold the Ascension chamber for the quadrant, and you can ask to go up and be worked on every night.
Nice. Yeah. I would like to go take that into what you commented on, which is Dolores Cannon, because your other question was like, why do I feel that, it's happening now? Yes, that's what you said. Yeah. So let's go back to Dolores Cannon and this connects all the dots actually. Okay. UFOs, UFO disclosure, the Navy being involved in. First of all, the Navy is involved deeply into the UFO disclosure thing because the Navy actually has jurisdiction in space, because the space is known to the military as the second ocean, right? So, which is why you see a lot of these UFO things happening off Navy craft, USS Nimitz, right? It's all Navy stuff, even though the Air Force has their own space program as well. Yeah. So the way the dots connect here is that the reason why they're afraid and they keep saying the words threat is because we're seeing a lot of these sightings at nuclear facilities. And obviously the nuclear facilities for these countries are about protecting their well-being and their interests. So if they have anything that is foreign that is over there, it's automatically, it's almost like an AI at this point. Something there, doesn't matter if it's good or bad, it's definitely checked off as a threat, right? So firstly, we're not sure if it's 100% an agenda-oriented thing in order to make it look like ETs are bad, That, I think this jury is still out there. But we do know that these are military industrial complex, and that their whole default is that anything foreign in these areas are a threat. So now this goes back to Dolores Cannon. And she said after World War II that there was, through her hypnotherapy sessions, and she wasn't digging for this stuff, this was just coming up repeatedly, that when she was hypnotizing people, that she was getting this voice from all these people that after World War II, that there was some sort of call, like vibratory call out to the universe that said, like, actually, after we detonated the first atomic bomb, is what happened. Actually. Yeah, that there was this call out to the universe that the law of non-interference basically had kind of been shifted a bit, and now you can have direct effect, and you can go down to this planet and incarnate and have and do something in order to help shift this. So it was a call out to the universe that, hey, we need to do something about these humans. Look at what's happening here. And then all of a sudden, population booms, all these people start incarnating, the first wave come through. The first wave, they become the hippie generation, right? And they're suppressed and demonized, and drugs are infiltrated into the community through the CIA, which is all documented, in order to move them away from the consciousness that they were speaking, right? And it had some sort of a success, but not at the same time, it didn't. Like, it really did create the foundation for what we're going to do right now, right? So, and now we're at a point where, you know, I've been not even following the waves anymore because I read her information so long ago, but there was a second wave, a third wave, there's the crystalline children, and it was just kind of just like the government's doing their drip disclosure. Well, the drip awareness is occurring in the universe in regards to that there's waves of people coming through. Now, why this is happening now, every 2,000 years, the Earth shifts into a different zodiac in the sky. For the last 2,000 years, the predominant zodiac has been Pisces, which is why the fish is a direct connection to Christianity, because it started around the birth of Jesus. If you go back 2,000 years before that, there's another one. There's, for example, when you have the Taurus in the sky, you have all these cow cults everywhere, including Hinduism created under, under that as well. And even, and I'm going on a detour here because I like putting history in it, but even when Moses came down from Mount Sinai and he created an earthquake and all these people fell on the ground, he was so upset at them. That was actually almost like a dramatization of probably what really occurred, which was the fact that an old zodiac had just finished, a new zodiac was beginning, and it was up to Moses to come down and tell everybody that, hey, we're done with the old gods. It's time for the new gods. So the fact that Moses came down and did that to his own people really doesn't make sense, because you can't blame those people for worshiping the way they've been worshiping forever when that's still the predominant religion on the planet, right?
Also, that's a really nasty God. I mean, when you look at the Old Testament, I mean, he gets mad and he kills everybody.
Yes, vengeful God.
Yeah, that's not the kind of God I want to live with.
So now we're in another shift of a zodiac, and different native tribes of the Americas have said that we're in the fifth world, and that every single world was destroyed by a different element. But now we're in the fifth element, which is ether, which is not a destructive force, but is a transformative force. So we're not only at the cusp, but the shift of the ages, which is like the zodiac ages of the Yuga cycles, in which only text in the world that has the actual dates are the Vedic texts, who actually came a little bit after the Vedas, that shows that around 1700 AD, we shifted from the Dark Age into another age, and then there was a 200-year transition, and in 1900, which was 100 years ago, we completely shifted into the Treta Yuga, which is the Bronze Age. So on that cycle alone, which almost every ancient civilization has that similar kind of calendar, even the Maya, we're on the upturn in consciousness. But then also we are, if you look at the way our solar system is rotating around our galaxy, we're on the positive end of that as well. And we're diving into the photon belt, and the photon belt has a very high concentration of ether. The ether energy has a way to shift our awareness, our consciousness, and the direction that we're heading on this planet. So I feel scientifically, spiritually, through looking through ancient texts, everything shows that this is a time of great transformation. And we've obviously been in the dark age for quite some time. Like, look at what we've done on this planet. Look at the way, like, the thousands of people walking across continents to go to other places just to murder people with their bare hands. That's been 3,000 years of
I know.
humanity, right?
Well, when you think of the colonization of the world, like in England, at one point the sun never set on the English Empire, and
Yeah.
what kind of humans were these beings that lived on this little island that would get in boats and go do that? And anyway, that's a whole nother story. But I'd rather stay on what's in it for everyone that's listening, and how that all of this information can benefit everyone. Because what I want everyone to know, and what Neil I think would say also, is that we really have superpowers as humans. We have this, once we accept this knowledge and connect up to who we really are, allow more of our soul to embody this vessel, we can do magnificent things together. But we have to clear out all of these high contrasts, and that's what I see. What you're doing is giving people the information to have the hope to see the path to out of this, polarity thing that we're in. Because just saying that we're going into the divine feminine, well, every human has both, and they're out of balance in everyone. I mean, there's
Yeah.
hardly any women that are in balance either. It's not.
Mhm.
So when you say that a lot of what you're doing is helping people find a path, just realizing their own awareness and release the fear of being who they are.
Yeah, exactly. And with the divine feminine thing, I want to comment on that. But firstly, I want to answer this question that somebody asked on YouTube, saying that why did they not intervene in Japan? Well, I would like to just clarify what I said, because when I was talking about the first atomic bomb being tested, that's when we start having the first sightings, right? For and these incarnations that they call out. 1945, San Antonio, New Mexico. Just a few months before that, the first atomic bomb was tested. They didn't intervene in any of them. So I did not say in any of what I was saying here that they intervened. I'm saying that there was a call out to the universe for us to come here and shift everything, because the law of non-interference, what would happen if all of a sudden that we're about to drop that bomb and the UFO came and just zapped it away? Well, that will throw us hundreds of years into the future of this realization of where the planet was definitely not even ready at that point. Plus, there is the law of free will within this dimension. It's free will, and free will means that if you are a higher dimensional extraterrestrial or a being coming into this reality to manipulate where we're going, you can't really do that. But it seems that there is one thing that is in the universe, which is make sure they don't destroy themselves. Right. So it's like when we get to the point of completely wiping out our planet, I don't think that's ever going to happen, because there's a lot of fear mongering out there about, in a few years, this is going to happen. Climate change is going to kill everybody on Earth, and nuclear warfare is going to destroy everyone. I don't think it will ever get to that point. And there can be a point we get to where we have communication and interaction with these ETs. But just as the Israeli space chief said a few months ago, that the Galactic Federation, he said, is already here on Earth, but they're not communicating with us because they're waiting for us to basically get to their level, or to not be a war-mongering civilization. They are afraid of what we might do if they started these interactions first, which is why a lot of the communications and contact experiences, oops, my mic almost fell, are happening on the individual level and group level rather than governmental level.
Well, I want to add one other thing. I'm in several groups in Boulder, and Boulder is one of the science hubs for the U.S. Government. And there was a amazing presentation, probably 6 years ago, by Dr. Bernice Hill. And she was presenting about how that there has been intervention since World War II at military sites where there's stacks of potential missiles that could be fired. And what was fascinating, she's showing these slide presentations, and it was just brilliant how she did it. And someone puts their hand up who's in the audience, and there's maybe 6 50, 60 people there at the most. And this guy stands up and he says, I was at that military base. We were running crazy. We had no idea why the missiles wouldn't function. And she's explaining at the front of the room the interference. And I mean, but people, and he was there, he didn't even know it. He had to wait till 40 years later to find out that's why everyone was in an uproar.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
yeah, it was. I love this stuff.
Yeah, and there are a lot of other documented cases, like Russian nuclear codes being scrambled, right, that have stopped us from creating huge damage, right? Maybe not all of them have been stopped, but for the most part, compared to how many nukes we've had since then, and how little nuclear activity we've had, and wars around it, it's almost like everybody's in a stalemate right now. But these countries all have enough nukes to like completely detonate the entire planet multiple times over, right? Well, so
that's
where
the asteroid belt came from. Was a that's why they don't want us to do it again. And so I think we already have proven that we're evolving, and hopefully what I was hoping with contact, and the reason why I brought it up is that I think that once we learn more about our connection to the stars, that technology of med beds and of propulsion, where it's free energy. There's already been free energy offered where the U.S. wouldn't allow it in. What was that guy's name? I won't think of it right there. Kresge. Do you know him?
No.
Okay, well, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, there was a gentleman who created a device, and he presented it in Paris, I think. And he said any countries that will sign a peace treaty can have the design. And it was a Tesla machine. It would run your whole house of all the energy that you needed. And it wasn't like solar where you need a jump start type of thing. It just pulled it out of the void. And a bunch of African countries signed, but the U.S. wouldn't. And I tried to get, I was taking classes with people who were creating them kind of here. And the kits were only $800 to do it, but the U.S. wouldn't allow them in. So there's, I mean, it's coming. And that's why I wanted disclosure, is I thought, well, that technology would change the whole infrastructure of the world economy, because it won't be on oil and gas.
Well, it's not over yet when it comes to the disclosure. It seems that because a lot of people in the Senate and in Congress are just regular people that, wanted to become a politician sometime in life and became it. Not all of them are part of some nefarious cabal, right? So a lot of them are genuinely curious people. Some of them are genuinely curious, but also military minded because they're part of the government. So they're going into what's going on here. It's a threat. We need to figure it out without any awareness. Then there are those that are like, whoa, what's going on here? This could mean so much more for humanity. We need to figure it out. And then there are those that are specifically concentrating on the technology because they're realizing that these craft are doing things that we're only theorizing is possible now. So they actually had to change what Louis Elizondo on 60 Minutes changed his whole thing. He was saying that, they are actually, it's not that these things are impossibly doing things impossible. They're doing things that we know are possible, we've theorized about, and we've done on the subatomic world. But these craft are doing things that we're only now discovering is a science. So there are hundreds of years in the future from us. So what would happen if we got hold of this technology, and how can we utilize it for the benefit of humanity? Which is why it comes back down to a shift in consciousness, empowerment, working on our traumas, all collectively doing these things, changing our institutions to promote well-being and health, right? Exactly. When we start doing these things, including the educational system, our food supply, right? Like, it's just like we are test tube dummies, like, for basically the food and chemical companies that are completely deteriorating our bodies and consciousness, and we're dying at an earlier age because of it. So we need to come up with why we need to change this, make the effort to change it. And once we do that, that will give us more of an opportunity to start being the good caretakers of the technology that we're already witnessing out there.
Right. And I'm going to add to that. I believe everything you said, and I believe that we are powerful enough to change even the bad food, that a prayer. I mean, everything in this physical environment is based on water. It affect water. So you can restructure just about everything and still make it okay.
Yeah, that's part of the relearning program that goes within that, because part of it is not just changing those institutions that I mentioned, but it's also teaching people that everything is vibration and frequency, and you're actually not just praying, you're literally sending a frequency in this reality that is affecting on the subatomic world and the cellular level whatever you are, have in front of you. And then obviously Dr. Emoto's studies would be the scientific backing for all of that. So when we realize that more and more, and if we could all wake up every single day and we'd all bless our food and bless our days, just imagine. I think if all of us on the planet got to a point where we could even do that, we could shift in dimensions just like overnight at that point, the collective energy.
Well, the dimensions are, I think this is a game. So I think the game is to be in 3D, but to bring those higher dimensional versions of you into this physical, which is soul body fusion. I think that's the game. And if there's enough of us, and I think there's a lot of us doing the game, I think there's a lot of potential for people to experience that at a really high level and to have fun with it. I mean, that's what consciousness wants, to expand itself. Why would it want you to only stay within
limited? Yeah, that's a great analogy. I always go to that analogy too, how this is very similar to a game, or even a computer program, right? But I need to be conscious about the way I say it, because some people think when I say that, I mean it's inorganic, just like a computer, right? But it's like a very beautiful, conscious, organic program, and each dimension that we're like is almost like a level. Like you complete this level, you go to the next one, you go to the next level, and then maybe if you like, you can come back and start all over again, and within these levels, I think that you're right, that we have the ability to tap into multiple dimensions while still existing within these third dimensional bodies. And I do believe that the chakra system is connected to that. And since we have 7 chakras in the body, I think we're able to embody 7 dimensions of physicality and awareness. So what I mean by that is, we're living in a beautiful, harmonious earth with all the institutions fixed and corrected in a way that better us and navigate the human template and our psychology based on the evidence and facts that we have of the way the humans operate. Once we start doing that, and then we have the ability to tap into these other dimensions, each other dimension has a whole slew of information, data in there, extraterrestrial beings, well, the nature of karma, cycles of incarnation. And every time we tap into this dimension, we just have this download of all this new information. So what would happen if we lived in this body, but we had 7 dimensions of awareness? And then some even say even beyond that, because, we have the 8th chakra, which is the astral one, going all the way to the 12th. I know Barbara Messiniak believes that we can be 12th dimensional beings while we're existing in this 3rd dimension here. And I feel that there is science to back all of this, just the whole chakra system and the levels of experiences people are getting when they're awakening their chakras, right?
What I find is that there is access to the 12th dimension. I have access to it, but I don't have words for it. And that's the thing, is as soon as words are like spells, and as soon as you articulate it, then it condenses it and changes the frequency of it.
Yeah, that's amazing to think of that like that.
Yeah.
And if you look back at the cycles of ages and the yuga cycles, some of the researchers have said that before language came about and we had written language, we were concentrating mostly on telepathy. And it's been pretty well documented that the oral version of the Vedas was more accurate than the written version of the Vedas. And it was orally for over 1,000 years. Right. So just imagine the level of consciousness. We can't even imagine that, because we're so fragmented right now, with so consumed with so many things. We don't even realize the type of mental state that beings in the past could have had when they were connected to the earth a lot more,
Well, that's what the indigenous are holding for us. I
Yeah.
believe that when we got shut down and closed down in March of 2020, that was the opportunity for a lot of people to level up and a lot of people to change their, release their fear of death and to realize that they hadn't completed what they wanted to do in this time. And so I don't know about you. I'm sure your business has grown. My business has grown. People have finally said, I got to write that book. I've got to do that course. I can't not. I mean, they're being forced by themselves, their own momentum. Really, it's like a momentum. And it was almost like when it happened, it was like, okay, game on, game on.
Same here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, I'd love to talk, and thank you everyone who's asking questions and commenting. Thank you so much. If you have questions for Neil, please put them in the comments, and we'll do our best to get to them. But Neil, what I wanted to do is, if you could talk a little bit about this event coming up for the hybrid. So, because I want to really, could you define a hybrid to me?
Yes.
Okay.
First, I want to make a comment on what you said, because it was really like the whole thing about what we went through the last year or so, right? The there's two the two biggest fears that humanity has are, one, the fear of death, but there's one more than that, and it's the fear of public speaking. Right? The fear of public speaking is higher than the fear of death. So some may wonder, whoa, why? Well, it's kind of simple to realize why. And the reason is you're not thinking about dying every single second of the day, but you're thinking about publicly speaking all the time, right? So you're always confronted with having to speak to someone or groups even. So, or wanting to do it, but not being able to do it. It's just in your conscious all the time. So you're going to obviously be fearful about whatever's in the forefront of your head. COVID hit. Many people weren't fearful at all. Most of the world was. And what happened there is that we were all of a sudden we were confronted with the fear of our demise. Like, what could happen to us? Oh my God, right? And all of a sudden, you see all these people that never talked before start publicly speaking. You start seeing all these people that wanted to be practitioners, healers, speakers start stepping up and doing it because, one, the social interaction stopped quite substantially, and then two, if the biggest fear of them all is now in the forefront of everything, nothing else matters anymore. It's time to get out there and speak our truth. So I just wanted to make that comment because that's kind of what I observed as well.
Yes, I'm glad. I think the whole thing, if it was supposed to isolate us, it actually helped us all find each other. So
yeah, I know.
Okay, well, thank you for that, because I do think that there's lots of good things that have happened through this. I think that it's realignment, and we had to stop. We were over busy, over preoccupied. Our whole society across the world is ADD, and all of a sudden you had to just stop and be with yourself.
Yeah.
Even if you were in family, you still had to be with yourself.
It put things in perspective for a lot of people, including myself.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the event.
Yeah. So what do you mean by hybrid?
Okay. So we're doing this 2-day event. It's called the 2-day hybrid online conference. I first found out about hybrids around 2007, 2008. And there are Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, right? He does a lot on talk about the hybrid programs, but there's also been government documents that have come out that speak about different hybridizations. So when we're talking about hybrids, and specifically in this context of this event, we're talking about DNA hybridization with humans and extraterrestrials. Okay. There are many people that claim to have direct evidence of this. There's some people that claim to actually be hybrids and have awareness of it. There are some even that have had studies done in the DNA, and they've come up with huge anomalies. And there are even government documents that talk about hybridization programs. And then just to throw in another thing, there are whistleblowers that talk about the different races that and their agendas for hybridization. There are, for example, the mantis beings that are utilizing our DNA for some sort of hybridization that is potentially a positive hybridization. There are the grays that we've seen so much about. Roswell made them famous, and then all the way up until now, the gray ETs, their whole agenda, even though there's multiple grays and they're interdimensional, so multiple dimensional versions of them have come and had an experience with us and interacted with us, that there's one agenda in regards to the fact that they actually evolved out of the ability to feel and have specific emotions. So they're working on creating a hybridization. Well, they've already done this, utilizing human DNA with themselves in order to create a being that they're able to incarnate into. And we see that as in order to have the experience and transcend and ascend. And we see that same story throughout history, the Anunnaki story, the Lyrans, the Syrians, and the Pleiadians genetic story on Earth. So we see the same kind of thing playing out, where there are beings that take DNA from Earth, which is a genetic soup of many different DNAs, and they create hybridizations and do different experiments with those beings. And sometimes the experiment is actually themselves incarnating into those bodies to live out lives in that dimension that they created the being in.
Okay, so wait a second though.
Yeah.
So are you calling somebody who is angelic in the last lifetime that jumps into a human body from infancy, not a walk-in, but somebody who decides to embody as a human? Oh my God, a lot of work. A big comparison and contrast. Anyway, are you calling them hybrid, or are you calling them? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't see. That's also a loose term. You could technically, like, I'm talking about DNA, genetic hybridization between beings, right?
Okay.
If we look at a lot of the research and whistleblowers, spiritual texts, channeling, you'll see that a lot of these planets, they are in dimensions where they don't actually have conversations and or channelings about all the different races on their planet. That Earth seems to be a planet with multiple species that have genetic makeup that connects to many different races in the galaxy. From just being in this for 20 years or so, my understanding now is at the level that almost, if not every single being within our galaxy has donated DNA to Earth in order to have it play out. Like, for example, there are ant people, there are all types of DNAs that have been like just kind of like embedded into our planet. And then as we evolve and go into our future, when the DNA goes off planet from Earth, we end up becoming these beings in our higher dimensional future, because they're actually coming from a higher dimension, which is technically our future, because we're not in that dimension yet. Because time, as we know it, isn't as we know it, right?
Right. Well, I've heard the Earth called the living library, and that's why there's so many different species of insects and birds and plants. It's one of the most beautiful. It's like a jewel in the cosmos.
Yeah.
Because of all this inner working, so are we the? Okay, but I've listened to Barbara Lamb. Barbara Lamb is one of the people on your lineup. Sheila Seppi is one of my friends. She lives here in Colorado. So Barbara talks about the mantis, and she's had great experience with all the beings that have done experiments. She doesn't have a bad thing to say about all of them. Are you finding that some of the people that are talking about hybrids are talking about fearful things, or is it all for our highest good?
I don't see any there. I know there have been some government documents in the past that have kind of alluded to something that could be a negative, but in regards to the three different gray hybridization races, one is the Yael and the mantis being hybridization. And what Barbara Lamb has said, I've only heard positive things from it. I think maybe it was demonized just because some people were actually taken through abduction experiences, and they had what to them seemed to be traumatic experiences, where maybe the beings weren't actually trying to traumatize them, but were extracting DNA from them. So that's where we start getting a lot of the negative stuff, is because we hear about traumatic abductions, and then we see those kind of experiences glorified in Hollywood and on movies such as Travis Walton's, and more than that, right? Even though they would say themselves it wasn't as bad as they've been projected, right? So because of that, it's become demonized, but I don't feel that it's for a nefarious reason.
Okay, that's my sense too. And I have to say, I got to go to dinner. Barbara Lamb spoke here in Boulder at Boulder Exo, and she did a brilliant presentation. And then we got to go to dinner with her afterwards. So she was out late. I mean, she's older than I am, and we were out to at least 11 o'clock at night, and she was still going to go work on somebody the next morning at 8 a.m. And I was amazed. So I don't know, is she a hybrid also? Is that why she can work like that?
She doesn't make any claims, but maybe that's a question we can ask her.
Amazing, amazing.
Because she does, I'm sure she hasn't regressed herself, so she wouldn't know. But that's true, because Barbara Lamb is one of the most dedicated people I know. She like registers and attends many of our events just as an attendee. That's how like much research she does. Whenever we do live events here in California, most of the events she comes to, even at 3-day conferences, as an attendee, with right in the front seat, writing notes. She's there all day from 8 a.m. to around 10 p.m. She'll stop and have snacks. She'll eat fruit because she's too busy learning. All right. And then like one day I remember after the 3-day conference and we were talking, it was like 10 p.m. We're closing up in Irvine. And I was like, did you eat? And she goes, oh, no. I've been too, like, she couldn't even. So I went and got her a plate of food from the room. But that's how into all this information she is.
Yeah, that's what or do you feel like most of the people that you have on your presentation this weekend are like Barbara? Because you guys get to go to this presentation and learn from Barbara and Neil and Sheila would be great. And then you got all these other people.
Yeah, so we have a lot of people. Daryl Anka, who Challenge Bashar, is going to be there as well. And most of these individuals have claimed to be hybrids or have information in regards to the hybridization program. And then we have maybe just 2 researchers, which will be Barbara. So it'll be a lot of great information there. And then, Barbara will be providing context from her hybrid regressions of what people are saying about this. And you will notice that a lot of what she's coming up with through her regressions, that people that claim to be hybrids that are on the panel also have like stories that that go hand in hand with each other, and a lot of dots will be connected. This is the first time that I'm doing a conference on hybrids, and I had to throw in some research there, some government backing data, because I really like to throw in the science of how this is a reality, and then also information that confirms it to you rather than just making claims. So this conference is going to be 2 days, I think around 8 hours a day, Saturday and Sunday. And I forget the number of speakers right now, but I think there's like 12 or 13 of us. And there's just going to be a wide range of diverse information in regards to hybridization.
So Neil,
let me add one more thing. I'm going to do a presentation actually on the hybrid conference, which is going to be different than everyone else, which is going to be talking about hybrids in ancient civilizations and the stories of hybrids from thousands of years ago to present.
Well, I want everyone to know. I wanted to ask this and have you let everybody know that usually if you attend these conferences, if they're paid conferences, you can watch them later. So if you can't attend, if you already have plans for the weekend, there's still a window of opportunity to watch it later, correct?
Yeah, there's unlimited replay access, so you can watch it back forever.
Oh, good. Great. That's great, because each one of these beings are amazing people, and the opportunity is to expand your awareness so that you could actually benefit. The one other thing I wanted to say is that I feel that there are people that are really putting their energy into creating positive feelings and associations with the unseen world, and Neil is one of those people. He is dedicated so much of his energy, and I don't know how you have that much energy, but you do, to bringing this information where people can really connect with who they are at another level. And actually, it's a creative opportunity. Do you agree? So, because your mission is to help people do this, right?
Yeah, to not only put out the information myself, but also help the individuals that have something to say and don't have a place to say it. Right.
Yeah.
So having discussions and conversations, and something I'm cultivating more now than ever before is even discussions between individuals that are people that maybe have conflicting ideas and don't agree with each other. Having discussions, I've noticed too much that when someone doesn't agree with someone, and then there's a lot of people that don't agree with that individual, we're quick to come up with a conspiracy about who this person is. That they might be a part of the Illuminati or some organization or anything like that. But a lot of us are just people trying to figure it out, and sometimes we make mistakes along the way. And on the fact that we have amnesia on this planet, come on, like, we're all trying to figure it out, and none of us know everything entirely. And even if you think you do, because I know there are those out there who believe they know everything, even that might be a limited range of awareness in regards to what we're allowed to actually tap into, and so there's so much more.
We wake up every morning with the opportunity to expand consciousness and to be the best that we can be. So even if somebody thought something yesterday, it doesn't matter today. So that's the thing, is there's an opportunity to be open, to grow, to see the magic of everything that's around you and play in it. Because the joy is the recipe. This fear molecule, this fear virus is not what we want to co-create from the universe. We want to co-create with wonder, like a child, and play and joy. And you're really giving us a chance to experience that more and more. And thank you so much, Neil.
Thank you, Kathy.
So anything else? Should we give them? I'm going to make sure that they know to go to PortalToAscension.org, and you'll see that there's a events tab, and you'll see the hybrids-conference-2021. Is there other ways that they should get a hold of you, Neil?
Yeah, if you would like to, I would love for you guys to sign up to our YouTube channel, because we're growing that quite a lot. And we've actually been releasing over the last month and a half or so, like almost 200 hours of footage in the archives, interdimensional, extraterrestrials, a lot of conscious, amazing information there. So you can go to youtube.com/PortalToAscension. And then the last thing is, if you can't attend the event, but you still want to sign up at PortalToAscension.org. There's over 3,000 hours of free presentations on every topic that I had the opportunity to do an event on or think about in the last 16 years or so. So there's a lot of amazing content there, sorted by speakers, sorted by topic. And we're launching a new website, which will be launched within the next couple of weeks, which is going to be extremely robust platform. So it's like a one-stop shop for consciousness that you can go to, not only learn information for the first time, but also further your training in the specific things that you want to go into, because we are going to be the teachers of this new paradigm, and PortalToAscension is that university.
And it's real. This is not Hollywood. This is, some things are highly produced, but most of the stuff is like what we're doing right now, where you can really feel like you get to know the person, and you really get to follow somebody. And rather than reading hundreds and hundreds of books, which is what I used to do, now you can listen to in an hour you could have your mind blown.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Neil. And I hope everyone that watches this shares this, so that more people can learn about Portal to Ascension and watch what Neil does, because he's on a path to really help thousands and thousands and thousands of people wake up. So he's somebody you're going to want to watch. Thank you,
Kathy.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Talk later.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.